Hey guys, it's Randall again. Back to do another video about the Monday Night Football game, which will showcase the Los Angeles Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are entering this game 3-0. The Chargers are 2-1. The Raiders also enter this game having beaten three teams who won 10 plus games last year. This is the first time that has ever happened in the history of the NFL. So there's a lot to be said about that if you're looking at it from a historical perspective. However, I think the Raiders, have benefited from playing somewhat of a weak schedule. You could argue that the Ravens should be 0-3. You could also argue that the Steelers should be, 0-3, I guess, if you want to. They are 1-2. They got that win in the first week against Buffalo, but they haven't looked good since then. And then the Dolphins, a team that was very overrated coming into this year with all of their hype from last year. So the Raiders, while they're 3-0 and they beat teams that won 10 or more games last year, I think that this is a spot where they come back down to earth. Let's not forget that this Raiders team had a win total of 6.5 prior to the start of the year, and they currently still have the worst odds to win the AFC West. So I think that is pretty telling. The sportsbooks, I think, still believe that this Raiders team is probably not as good as they've performed these last 3 weeks, but this is a good test for them on Monday night. The Chargers, they're coming off of the win against the Chiefs last week. The Chargers probably should be 3-0. They were screwed in that game against Dallas multiple times, multiple penalties. And the officials just did not do them any favors in that Week 2 game against Dallas. I really believe that Herbert is the real deal. I think he's a solid quarterback. And, in this game on Monday night, I really look for Herbert, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler to have very big games. I actually have a risk-free same game parlay from DraftKings that I received the other day in the mail that I plan on using. So if you still have that $25 one that they give you this week for free, I'll throw something out there tomorrow that you may want to throw that on. So just something to keep in mind. Like I said, I'm not sold on the I'm not sold on the Raiders at this point. There's just a lot of hype around this team, and I really am just not buying into it. They do lead the league in offensive yards per game. They move the ball a lot. That's something that Gruden, has always had success doing. But they're also in a spot where they're 0-18 all time. And that spot is when the Raiders are playing a game on turf in between home games. And we see that this Monday night whenever they travel to Los Angeles and take on the Chargers. The Raiders are giving up about 120 yards a game on the ground. And, Justin Herbert loves Austin Eckler. He's kind of a safety blanket that he will look to dump the ball off to and get a lot of yards out of Eckler and the short passing game, which is basically a run game if you're running the screen passes and the little short dump offs. So they give up 120 yards on the ground, and the Chargers ran the ball pretty well last week against the Chiefs. Their defense, as we know, against the rush is pretty suspect. But I really look for the Chargers to be able to move the ball on the Raiders, and I think that the Chargers can get enough stops against this Raiders team. And I really think that this game probably ends Chargers 31, Raiders 17, maybe 31-20. But I just think that this Chargers team is still a little bit underrated. I really thought that, off that Chiefs win, this line might open up around 4. There's always going to be public money backing the Raiders. There always is. And the Chargers really don't have a home field advantage. So, this is basically a neutral field. I would say there'll be plenty of Raiders fans there. and probably not a lot of Chargers fans. So I think that that's pretty telling with this line opening at 3. It moved to 3.5 pretty shortly after on Sunday night, and then it also went to 4 briefly on Monday. I really don't want to lay more than 3 points in this game with the Chargers, simply because it seems like these AFC West games, for whatever reason, always come down to field goal games. So, I'll look tomorrow. We'll see where this line is, and we'll place our bet. But this game is definitely turned into my favorite game of the week so far. Like I said, the point spread, if we take a look at it, Chargers -3, -115 on Barstool, DraftKings, and FanDuel. So it's definitely trending back towards that 3.5 number. I would love a 2.5, but I'm not really in love with um, laying the juice there. At that point, if you're looking at the 2.5, I think you're better off just taking the money line and playing the Chargers minus the 165. Um, a couple of player props that I think have some value in this game. I mentioned Austin Eckler and Mike Williams. Eckler for an anytime touchdown is -120 on DraftKings right now. I think he definitely scores. I'm not a fan of laying juice with player props. I talked about that yesterday. I like to get the plus money. But I think he has some definite value for that. And then Mike Williams, anytime touchdown scorer, he's actually plus 105 on FanDuel right now. I think he has a big game. And if you're looking, just take a look here at some of these props, the player passing yards. Take a look at Herbert over under 290. I really think, he should go over that. The only concern for me would be if this is a blowout, and I think it has the potential to be, that they run the ball a little bit more and he doesn't go over this total. Looking at the receptions, I think Eckler over 4.5 has some value again, though, -160. Over 5.5, I like that number as well. Plus 118 on FanDuel. I think, like I said, he'll have a big game out of the backfield and be able to pick up some yardage. If you take a look at Mike Williams, over 5.5, -160. Again, that's pretty high. If you take a look at their receiving yards for these two, Eckler over 33.5 on Barstool, -114. I think that's a very solid number. He had 0 in the first game against Washington, but he has far exceeded that number in those last 2 games. You can see DraftKings has that over 36.5, -115. So a little bit of a discrepancy between those two, but I think he definitely goes over the 33.5 and over the 36.5 in the receiving category. And then taking a look at Mike Williams, we'll scroll down to him just to see what his receiving total is. It looks like he is somewhere in the neighborhood of 74.5 over -115 on PointsBet, over 69.5 on FanDuel's -148, 75.5 -113 on Barstool, -115 on DraftKings. So I think Mike Williams has a chance to get close to 100 yards this game. But again, it's going to depend on the score. And like I said, if the Chargers blow them out, which I think is absolutely possible, you may see a heavier dose of the run game. So, outside of the Ravens game that I had in week 2, this is definitely my next favorite game of the year, if you will. I really, really like the Chargers in this spot. But like I said, I'm going to wait until tomorrow, and we'll see what the line movement is, and see where it goes from there. So check in tomorrow on Twitter at the betting zone is where I'm at currently. I'll post that play there, and you guys can see where I'm at. Thanks.